hello, and welcome to Grand Final Night, baby! Split 1 2020 OPL. My goodness, we made it. I'll tell you what, despite the universe's best efforts to kill us, we're here, and we are ready for some League of Legends action. It's not just me. We are joined by Spawn, Rusty, Skimmy, and of course, special recurring guest. You can't get rid of him. You don't want to get rid of him. It's Juves. Juves, welcome back.
How many games have you guys were able to watch of OPL?
It's good to be back. At least this is the only way I get to participate in Grand Finals. So thanks for having me.
Do you know the best thing about that is? If he hadn't have got it right then, 3 other people would have pounced on the Juves Grand Final joke. So I'm a little bit pissed off now, Juves. Thanks for that, mate.
That was the best defense is a strong offense, and if you have to offense yourself, then that's just what you have to do. We are preparing for an evening filled with some League of Legends action. That League of Legends action is not going to start for an hour though. So you got us. I mean, this is something of a throwback to the Juves Nick 58-minute fill from a couple of weeks ago. We've got time to kill, gentlemen.
Minus the reading, hopefully. Or the book reviews.
You don't know what's coming.
Hey, we got some books.
We got some books.
Uh-oh.
We didn't even dig into spawns.
I was about to say, I like how he said minus the books, but he didn't say minus the handstands on the bed.
That's right.
It's an important takeaway.
Yeah. I got some lovely messages online from people about that, and there was no complimenting of form. There was lots of complimenting of effort, and a few people saying, "I like that you did it, despite the fact that Juves chickened out." So I just wanted to put that out there. We are excited to have you guys around watching, of course, as well. Grand Final night. It is Direwolves versus Legacy. Before we start, we have some special guests joining us. We have some awards to give out for the evening. A look back at the OPL, look forward towards Grand Final evening. I will say, though, Juves, you were telling us a very interesting story right before we came on air. And to the point that I got so invested in this story that I started looking at... I was watching you, thinking about it, and then looked up at the clock, and it said there was 10 seconds left before we went on air. So I was truly unprepared to start this broadcast.
I mean, are you ever prepared?
A lot of effort goes into looking and acting this casual. There's a lot of preparation. The train can only go off the tracks if there were in fact tracks to begin with. That's the secret of good television like that.
Sometimes I feel like you tie me to the tracks though, if I'm being completely honest.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a slight on my character. Spawn, we have a special guest about to join us. Someone who you are very familiar with.
Am I? I think I'm familiar with all 3 of our guests, to be honest.
But
the first one does hold a special place in my heart. Nick, he's the only player I've ever seen, and this is a hint for the chat, right? He's the only player I've ever seen that has tried to relearn a champion during a playoff series. Cast your mind back. He's playing against Juves. It's Chiefs versus Sin Gaming. He locks in the Lulu. He takes Thunderlords. He's looking very aggressive. That doesn't work. Next game, he takes Thunderlords, builds support items. That still doesn't work. Next game, he took Windspeaker's Blessing and just tried to avoid Juves' bottom lane for 50 minutes, and that still didn't work. Of course, we're talking about Ejim, the Lulu god.
I mean, that was a hell of a recall flex there. Well done on remembering all that. Ejim, of course, your protege, I would say, Spawn. Ejim, are you on the line? Welcome back to the OPL. You are on the line. Very exciting. There he is. There's the face.
Hey guys.
There's the head. So exciting.
We're back in action.
We are
I
back.
kind of wish his computer was a little bit to his left so we could get the mirrorception going. Because I only have double bed, but really what I want is 15 times forehead on the stream right now.
It does. Which side is it? It does slide, but I've slid them. I literally did the opposite, so that wouldn't happen.
That's a good. I mean, that's because you're a professional. How's Korea treating you, mate?
Yeah. As you can see, sunny Seoul. It's a nice day outside. It's looking a lot like ACT. I feel very much at home here already. It's been only like 4 months of transitioning over to Seoul, but I'm settling in well. It's great.
You you of course never made it.
No,
It would have.
damn.
It's arguably the biggest flame failure of the OPL was leaving to not walk into another job. It just seems like that is counterintuitive. That is what they always tell you not to do. Always have your backup lined up. Are you hoping to get there anytime soon?
Yes, but that's been the problem. Like, the short version of the very long story is every week for like the start of this year has been like, okay, like we have some plan, whether it's like a flight, whether it's visa, like things are processing, like something is happening, and then things are looking up on the horizon.
Yeah.
And then every week I just get monumentally cucked. Like, unbelievably monumentally boomed by something out of left field. Whether it's literally like an airline cancellation, quite literally the Singaporean government like denied my entry because of like coronavirus stuff, and it was just like, it's been a roughie. And we tried remote stuff, but unfortunately it just hasn't happened yet. But it's happening soon, hopefully. But like, that's been 4 months of hopefully, so who knows.
But I guess the good news is that means you can join us on the OPL. Your old squad, Legacy, actually going up against Direwolves. What are your thoughts on the matchup? How do you think this one plays out?
Probably a lot less specific thoughts than I used to have. I'm familiar with a bunch of the players, but I guess definitely haven't watched as much of their games like this split than I have any other split, like keeping up with both leagues now. But I think Legacy, by all rights, should be the favorites coming into this one. Direwolves coming off a rough end of the split. They've looked good in playoffs, but like, it takes a couple of best of fives, like maybe like a reverse sweep versus Order. It's got to sting a little bit, but that builds a ton of momentum. But then literally game one, if Legacy win, that all goes out the window. So I think Legacy should be sitting pretty comfortable going into the matchup here.
And talk to me about your old teammate, because obviously the way you got your championships was by stabbing a lot of them in the back. Tally now back at home, and he hasn't won a championship ever. People wouldn't know that about Jimmy. But
True.
What do you think about Jimmy picking up potentially his first title today?
That'd be good. It's been a long time coming. There's a couple of players in the league that have been like out, like in it from the start. Like Chiefs losing to Direwolves means like Claire is out. He's been a long time name. So James Tally sitting in that camp certainly should have a lot to prove in this one. And yeah, coming into midway through the split, he's definitely going to be feeling good about it.
I just want to point out that Ferrier101 in the chat says Spawn almost looks like Ejim now. They've even got the hair
with the
parted the
beard.
same way. It's the
Nice.
same glasses, the smooth face, the parted hair. You aren't in Korea, Spawn, so it all matches up.
Yeah, it does. Do you know the other day, and this is a little bit embarrassing, and Swiper can back me up here, and I don't normally do this, but the other day I was having a bit of a roughie, and I missed my old mate Bryce a little bit, so I put on a Chiefs jersey that had Bryce on the back of it, and I wore it into the Order Gaming house, and Dos was literally like, get the out of the house in that stuff. But I was like, I just missed Bryce, and so I wore Bryce's jersey for a day. It was nice.
That's wholesome. Do you have anyone else's jerseys, or am I the only one?
I actually have
Swiffer.
a Swiffer jersey and a
Yeah.
Ejim jersey from the
Okay.
Chiefs.
Okay.
Would it have been weird if you were the only one?
No, I thought. I mean, this is the first time I've heard that story. It would have been a little bit more wholesome,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe it's
the
even
thing
better
is,
now
I
because he
actually
had
had
a
to bug
choice.
Bryce for like 3 years to get his jersey. This is a true story as well. Because I was always a huge fan of Ejim, even when he was a Legacy player. And then I just kept bugging him for a jersey. And then one day, randomly last year, I think, he just bought me a jersey and it was good.
Yeah, we had a couple of them. I reckon, like, literally in this cupboard, I've got like 17 Chiefs jerseys. Like, over the course of the year, we'd get like 6 new ones. It's ridiculous.
Well, we're very thankful that you came back, even for this short amount of time, to appear on a League of Legends broadcast. So
Thanks for hiring me, guys. It's been great doing some work. See.
and I don't
That's
know
me
if
done for the year.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but we got rid of Juves for the whole segment, so it is just like it was last year. So it's been a pleasure to see you again. obviously, we hope that you can get over to Korea soon and we get to see you back on
I
screens.
don't hope that at all. You do not speak for the broadcast, Nick. I hope he remains grounded.
That's the master worry that the protege will one day overtake him and take over. Do you have anything to say to your OPL fans
back.
before you go? Because they are I mean, they're
already
not
gone.
legion, but there's definitely like 4 or 5 of them in the chat.
He's pissed off. You want me to drag him back up?
Oh, he left. Wow. How do you feel about that, OPL? That's how much he
gone.
likes you. He left even when he's still on camera. He's now
Hey.
checking his hair and definitely logging into his email. He's checking Twitter. He's still on camera. He doesn't realize. He has no
Please
idea.
swap the cabs. Thank goodness.
That was an exciting time.
We've got a two-shot.
Okay, so we've lost Juves and obviously Bryce's guard, so it's just back to you and I, Spawn. Bryce, I mean, it's good to see him again. I've missed him a lot. I pitched hard. So it's the end of the split. We could talk about what the plans were mid-split before everything went horribly wrong. You know how we had Bryce's face on a pillow? I think it was on the Poro, I think
I was on a Poro. Yep.
Yeah. My pitch to Riot after that first show was that we get a mannequin and we put Bryce's face on it, and over the course of the split, we dress it more and more like Bryce. So we start putting on his sort of like, you know, some of the scoop net jumpers that Rusty steals from him. We get some wireframe glasses. We give it a really smug attitude. And then over the course of the split, he just gets closer and closer to the couch until eventually he replaces, I mean, I assume Skimmy, because Skimmy is, of course, the play-by-play.
He's a play-by-play.
They need to die every
The defense
split.
against Dark Arts job of the Riot against Oceanic Office.
It's so true. My God. Oh, that is too real. It was massively shut down. I don't know if it was the price of mannequins or just a logistical nightmare or some sort of weird, insulting move that they weren't a fan of. But speaking of people who were part of the broadcast,
Do I get to do another intro?
Team. Yeah. Do you want to do another intro?
Yeah, absolutely. This man, famous for terrorizing supports within the OPL, especially one Bryce Egan Paul as well. Legend has it that before game, you could hear him beating on his chest and asserting dominance from the team room. Of course, we are talking about the first ever OPL import that has gone to the LEC, thanks to my good friend Deficio. He is, of course, the Vanilla Gorilla, and introducing Origin support, Destiny.
Hello, hello.
Hey,
How is
buddy,
everyone?
how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Look, we're great. We couldn't be better right now. This is a pleasure to have you back. You doing pretty well for yourself as well. Obviously, as Spawn alluded to, over in Origin in the LEC, finished 4th overall this split, I believe. How is the LEC trading you?
Yeah, the LEC's a lot different to the OPL, but I still miss the OPL. Thank you for the interest one. That was hype as hell, man. Like that's got my heart pumping. But yeah, no, LEC's it's fun. It's different. But yeah, my heart's still here.
And it looks like the Europeans really enjoy the Aussie attitude as well, Mitch, because I've seen, a couple of the things on Twitter and stuff. I've seen your vocabulary, the swear words have definitely rubbed off on the Danes because Deficio certainly has learned a thing or two from you, I can see. How has the reception been from the fans over there?
I'd say that the fans have had a mixed response. Some people have been like a bit cautious of me, like obviously being an Oceanic player. But at the same time, I've had a lot of support. It is like a weird thing to see an Oceanic player in EU. And I think this split in particular, I had a pretty good performance. So hopefully I can keep it up.
And I've heard a version of how you got picked up that I was going to just quickly share, because I don't know if you've ever told this story. And I think for Oceanic fans, it'll be interesting. But what I heard, right, was that you went over for Worlds to Europe. And you're sitting there, you're scrimming, and there's a couple of assistant coaches in some European scrims, and they're, maybe helping a couple of other teams out get prepared for Worlds. And then this European coach, you just caught his eye. and then they had a couple of chats with you. They kind of found out what kind of guy you were. Next thing you knew it, you'll whisk away on a plane after Worlds, and you've been picked up by the Origin lineup. I know that is like 90% true, and there are some details missing. But how did you go when you first found out that Tier 1, because Origin is a huge organization, Tier 1 European org was taking a look at you from your Worlds performance?
So I'll start with the story. They first found me through watching some of our scrims. We didn't know that they were watching our scrims. They were just like friends with the coaching staff. We were scrimming a lot of EU Masters teams heading into Worlds. We were doing very well. We were like looking pretty strong going into Worlds. And the night before Worlds, the night before play-ins, I was told by Mammoth management that Origin were interested in me. It was really nervous, really stressful. I didn't expect to get picked up or anything. Like I kind of just went and just played my best because I knew that like we had a really good shot if we played well. So yeah, when I first heard of it, I was like, oh crap! Like I better not choke on day one or anything. Like I gotta fully try hard this. So yeah,
did
it
you
was
find
really
that
nervous.
did that added pressure help, or was that like the last thing you needed at that point?
I'd say it was a bit mixed. Like it definitely didn't help my sleep that night, but it definitely made me more excited for the game. So it was a double-edged sword.
You say that you're still an OPL boy at heart. You miss the OPL. What do you miss most about the OPL? Because of course it is the grand final night. We can be as arrogant and self-serving as we want. And don't say Spawn. Don't say Spawn.
To be honest, the players. Like I like playing the players. Like a lot of the people have
Is it
a lot
because
of
you crushed them a lot? Is that why?
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of banter. There's so much banter in those. Like even this season, like Shock with the wrong neighborhood. What he said in the Order series. Like I feel like there's a lot of banter here, and that's what makes it fun. Sorry, Swan. Sorry.
That's all right. No, well, you must have missed the intro meeting where we don't mention that. What about your two teammates? Because they're in this final. You got Jihoon and obviously the Slug in the jungle. Everyone else from Mammoth managed to get picked up, but old mate Babip and of course Topoon did stay behind. What have you made of their split so far? And do you reckon they're #import OPL ready?
To be honest, we'll have to wait and see. Like I feel like this final tells a lot. Like both sides have it on the line. I think like Chippy's has had, from what I've seen, he's had a really solid split on like both tanks and carries. And then on the other side, my old teammates, Babib, Tapoon, I think they've had some good showings as well. So I feel like this final will tell if they're importer ready or not, because this is the best time for them to be judged.
Indeed. Well, it's a real pleasure to have you back. I mean, it's nice to have someone, a guest on the broadcast who's actually left the country and accomplished something in League of Legends somewhere, because so far that seems like a pretty poor showing. Juves, did you have anything to add? Because we obviously lost you during the Bryce special.
Well, I'm back, and I'm glad I left during the Bryce one. No, I was gonna say, well, because I wanted to chime in quickly when we were talking about O's banter. I noticed Destiny during the LEC games against G2 flaring the FPX icon, and I actually died. I was just laughing.
I thought it was great.
And then the caster actually, you made the caster a bit upset with that one. But do you guys have that relationship with the players where the FPX flare, does it get spoken about after?
Not really, to be honest. My coach just kind of just laughed at me, like, why'd you do it? I was just like, like it's just for fun, man. Like why not?
Mental warfare as well, right? Like
yeah, mental warfare.
Yeah,
for sure. Like EU players, their mental just goes boom. So I was like, why not? Might as well try.
I thought that was great, man. I was just laughing. Me and Tim were just laughing on Discord. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Destiny, for joining us. It's been a pleasure to talk and see you again. We're so thrilled about everything that you have and are accomplishing over in the LSE. It's obviously something that makes the OPL here very proud. Continue the good work of spreading not only our talent but our personality over there. And Spawn, you did a good job on molding this one, apparently, as you claimed.
I did not do. I said Destiny is the most hands off I've ever been. Even though I know Martin, like I had nothing to do with the Destiny acquisition. That was all him.
Destiny, thank you very much. A pleasure. Good luck for Split 2 of the LEC, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See you guys.
Thank you very much, everyone. Obviously, we're experiencing some technical difficulties there, but let me tell you, the chat while you were gone was incredible.
Yeah, it was insane.
I mean, the things he said, the people he called out,
Are we even allowed to repeat it?
I don't think so. The ATM PIM numbers he revealed are just, I mean, an astronomical amount of goss and info there. And good to see Destiny doing so well, isn't it, Spawn?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Mitch to me is one of the most impressive international pickups because he's a shot caller. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like Phoebe did a little bit of shot calling, Ryoma did a tiny bit of shot calling as well. But to my knowledge, Destiny is like the first out and out like leader we have sent overseas. And I know he's still quite vocal on the Origin team as well. So I think that that's what's most impressive about the Origin pickup. Obviously, the LEC has like 3 imports as well, so it's super impressive to see him doing so well over there. I mean, 4th place in a European league, that's good enough to go to Worlds this year. That's incredible.
Absolutely. Our third guest for the evening is someone, Spawn, we can continue your intros, but someone who I do not know personally. I mean, at least the other two I would describe, if not friends, then at least co-workers who I compete for work with. But this third person, I only know via the medium of Twitch chat.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would know him for his social... Hey, oh God, I didn't even get to do it. He's already on screen.
Nah, get him up there.
Damn it, Raz. Get
Shut
off
him
the
up.
screen.
I don't want to hear it.
I was going to say, like, I had a big spiel ready for, maybe the second best social media presence that has ever come out of Oceania behind Sinju's. But,
Oh my
Raz,
God.
welcome to the OPL. You had a short stint here. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. And guess what I got while I was working in Australia that you couldn't get, Spawn?
Is it a world jacket?
Right here. Yeah.
Oh,
Look at that.
Oh. You had
So
to
for those that
get
don't
Bryce
know-
buying that for you going, huh?
yeah. For those that don't know, Raz actually was the coach of the Chiefs in 2015 when they won Split 2 title. He was a floating head on a computer screen at Luna Park, but he was definitely there.
Good times. It's funny because I actually only got to think about it recently, where both stints of my career, the coaching aspect and also the commentary aspect, started with Australia. So pretty incredible.
That is incredible. What is more incredible is how often you are watching the OPL.
Yeah.
Do you do anything other than watch League of Legends? Because
Look.
clearly, the time zone differences, the work commitments, all of these take a backseat to the fact that we see you in Twitch chat basically every day.
Look, Twitch.tv just does not close on my computer. My biggest problem with Chrome in general is that I have too many tabs, and sometimes I'll just have like 3 tabs of multiple streams open. And also, OPL is on at a really good time because if I'm casting, then OPL is probably already on like 2 hours before my casting in LPL. And then if I'm going to sleep, OPL is going to be on, and then LPL is going to be on afterwards, or LCK. So it's just like it's on at a great time for me to just like turn my brain off, basically.
We may not have the highest gameplay or the most viewers, but we are the most convenient region. And I think that's something to be proud of.
You guys got the best personalities too, goddammit. I enjoy myself every time.
Oh, sir, please, shut up. Keep talking. Speaking of that, I feel like you are, when I started my OPL career, I had Spawn. I was stuck with Ejim. You as someone who I missed, but I feel like in person you would be a fun hang. Do you think that after all of the current nightmare that the world is living through, it blows over? I think there should be some sort of meetup where we could hang out at some point. What would you suggest we do?
Oh my God.
What is a good Raz hang?
I would say... Oh, you go first, Spawn.
Twitch?
I need to hear from Spawn, actually. What would it be?
Okay, so what Raz would do to you, he would take you to a jazz bar, most likely.
Yes.
And then probably get lost trying to take you home afterwards, because he's not very good with directions. Going the other way, but he does enjoy a little bit of music, a little bit of chill music, some jazz. Raz is a big fan.
And I'm like, oh yeah, you go for it first, Jubes, actually.
No, for me to go see Raz, the last time I saw Raz, I had to go to China to see him. So that's just like, you've got to travel to see the man, the myth, and the legend.
That's true.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I would say, here's the thing about any bar-oriented subject with me. I get slappy. I know Spawn knows this. I know for sure Rusty knows this. Like, if I'm having a good time, my hand is coming rapidly at your arm. It's going to be slapped.
Really?
Yes. Yes. You're going to have a very red arm if you're sitting right next to me.
That is so interesting. You're an arm slapper. I would
I'm an
never
arm
have guessed
slapper.
that about you.
Oh,
Because that's-
actually, I think
Please.
it was Fish. Fish was going in an arm wrestling competition with somebody. It was somebody. My memory's awful. And I was slapping his arm for him to lose that arm wrestling competition. He was betting something was on the line, and I did not allow him to win.
And Fish just too polite to say this is horrible and borderline abuse. Like, just would have sat there and took it.
I don't know how people actually, take it. Why do they continue to sit with me? They're doing this to themselves.
I'm so excited about the fact that I was like, one day I'll meet Raz. It'll be a good hang, and I'm informed by the guy himself. Actually, I'm just gonna beat you up. I'm gonna take you to a jazz bar, and I've been to some jazz bars that are like in apartment complexes on like the third floor across one of those bridges that connects the two apartments. So it's like weird, obscure places, and then I'm just gonna slap you around in there for a while, and then leave you because I don't know where we are.
And what people wouldn't know before we kick Raz off the call, because I know we're getting wound up, is that Raz actually works with tons of friends of the OPL as well. He works with Anaro, he works with Choo Choos, and he works with Spooks. He's over at Golden Guardians as an academy coach. So how are the other Aussie boys going?
They're incredible.
FBI.
It's good working with them. FBI is also damn good. It's actually so funny just having FBI and Samuel Spooks' constant banter, just back and forth.
Well, thank you very much, Raz, for joining us here. It's been a pleasure to have you on the broadcast. I know Twitch chat very much enjoying your visit, so I'm glad that the broadcast was on at a convenient time for you.
Thank you, and have a damn of a good day.
We will. We absolutely will. Thank you very much, Raz. And as we say goodbye to Raz, that means we say hello again to Rusty and Skimmy. Let's bring the boys back. Smooth as silk. Look at that. My goodness. The people that the OPL has seen over the years coming back to celebrate this great league. Rusty.
Yes.
Did you, who's your favorite out of those three?
I mean, it was always going to be Raz. I could say that I miss Raz a lot, but I don't miss him slapping me. Now that he brings that up, Nick, I can tell you that it is incredibly true. So avoid the man at all costs if he's within arm's length of you, but I do miss Raz.
High loves Eeks. I guess he says, we got Raz, we can chuck Nick Boy off the cast now. I'd give up the job for that guy. He is an absolute pleasure to listen to. I'm a big Raz fan. I'm glad Bryce is gone. All right, it is time to get into the next seg of the pre-show. While we've looked back at some of the people who were a part of the OPL, it's time to look back at some of the people who were a part of the OPL this split, some of the highlights from this split, the awards for the 2020 Split 1 OPL. We are kicking it off with best moment of the split, and there've been a ton. And let me tell you, they were not just game. There was not just gameplay. There was just things that happened throughout the split. It's been Juves, I'm sure you will agree, an eventful split for the OPL and for League of Legends in general.
Yeah, no, there's been some very big moments in the context of some players' careers individually that I think that we could list a bunch. And there's also been some fun, cool moments that I think will be remembered for a long time on broadcast. So it was hard to pick a best moment, but it was just, for me, it's been a really good split to watch.
It has indeed. Let's take a look at the runners-up for best moment of Split 1 2020. The OPL honk is the first runner.
What the heck?
It lives. It got enough votes. I'm very excited to see that in there.
I'm not. What a disaster.
How did it start again? It was one of those couch segments, right? And you were like trying to tell your point. What was it like? Would you rather a geese or? How did it start? It was one of those questions, right?
Was it
duck.
the seg where we needed to use a
Honk.
animal noise as the buzzer for something?
Yeah, it
Was
was.
that it?
Yeah.
The honk. The honk is popping up in chat right now. Do we have a second runner-up for Split One 2020 moment? No, we don't. It's just the winner. I'm excited for the winner. Sorry, I thought there were two runners up, so I was like, oh, I'm just glad that Honk got it. Honk came second, which is very exciting. Let's reveal the winner for best moment of Split One.
Oh!
We did
We
it!
did it!
We did it!
Back in the camera!
Oh my goodness. The winner of Best Moment for Split One 2020 was the 50 to 58 minute fill-in for playoffs, Juves and Nick.
So, sometimes they say well, most of the time they say technical difficulties are a bad thing, but I'd argue that it was a great thing now.
I mean, it was the birth of, what's the name of our podcast? Not the Kingsmen.
The Kingpins, isn't it?
The Kingpins.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
The Kingpins.
There was some. I just want to run through some of the other nominees.
But
just
Nick, quickly, do you know what my favourite
please.
part about the entire thing was? I remember
Yes.
I was sitting in here in this call, and we knew there was going to be a break, and I heard production say to you, throw to a break when you're ready, and you were just like, you know what? I don't think I will. I feel like it's time for me to go on a ramble, and that just escalated into handstands and push-ups and fitness galore.
I was getting very frustrated at how much we were being forced to talk about League of Legends. That was my thing. It was like 5 games. You just got to fill with analysis, and I was like, no, we can't have this. Some of the runners up just very quickly. Gravitas upsetting Legacy, which for me was a big one. A very
I
exciting.
voted for that.
I voted for that.
And then Bailey's birthday, but his bad back meant that he couldn't be on the broadcast, which was also a fun time.
That's so dark.
It was a pretty. At one point, I thought there'd been a passing, but it was fine. All right, it's time to move on to the second award for the evening. This is the Tim Carbon Wendell Most Improved Award. And Juves, before we get to there he is. There's the man. There's the man himself.
Chiefs.
Before we
I hate the
even
Chiefs.
get to the award, you take issue with this award.
Yeah, I want to say I still, till this day in 2017, was robbed of this award. So whoever was responsible, and I'm looking at Jake for voting,
Not me.
I was robbed.
I was
I
in the
didn't
room,
I
Juice.
didn't get much in my career. I got a couple things here and there. I didn't win much. I could have won a Most Improved award.
I was in the room reminding people that he had won 3 back to back to back and had actually gone down on the ladder, so couldn't win the award. And Rusty and Frostgurun and Raz, I remember sitting around the table getting very adamant about it, still gave him the bloody award.
No, I blame sport as well, Juves. Let's stick with that.
Yeah.
It's his fault.
Well, Juves, unfortunately, you're not going to win this one either. Not even as a runner-up. Let's reveal the runners-up for the Split One 2020 Most Improved. Pralis and Seaman, there you go. I mean, Pralis, I was a big fan, not only of just in terms of his gameplay, but particularly stepping up into a leadership role. It was an improvement of personality and power.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
I
I think
mean,
this
you
team nearly made playoffs. So with Pralis being the sole carryover from the 2019 roster. So that was certainly an impressive split.
And Rusty, it's a double Gravitas runner-up.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, like, I also considered someone like Kwaku as a most improved, but it's hard to say for, these rookie or first-time players exactly what that means. So for someone like Pralis to, show the improvement that he did was a very impressive performance.
They improved mightily. They did not improve enough, though, because they were not the winners. Let's reveal the winner of Most Improved for 2020 Split One. Hey, there he is. I mean, Katsuri, Skimmy, I believe it was week 1 or week 2, came on the couch and said that he felt like he wasn't good enough. His confidence wasn't up there and that he needed to improve. And he certainly did over the course of the split.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I bonded pretty well with Robert, you know. Dubbed him King Robert after back-to-back pens. The guy's a monster, right? We've had lengthy conversations as to what his aspirations are. He wants to go overseas. He wants to make it big on the global stage as well, and he's made a good point for himself. Unlucky, obviously, not to make it in the grand finals here today, but regardless, he can be very impressed with how he did in Split 1.
And this one's really interesting to me, Nick, because obviously we don't vote on MVP. That's a captain's award over here. But I actually would have nearly given Katsuri MVP. And it's really hard for me to give him most improved, because I actually thought he was a bit of a sleeper jet on the Direwolves team last year as well. And I know for a fact, he was one of the hottest commodities coming into the OPL offseason. We took a look at him, obviously. Cheap snapped him up. So, I think he's very deserving of the award because he is a gun player. But, a little bit of me thinks, this kid is actually just out and out good. Maybe he has improved enough to, justify the award. But, that to me is, such a kind of... He really is one of the best players in the league for sure at the moment.
Absolutely, and stepping up into a team that was worthy of his skills, not quite making it obviously to the grand final, but very well deserved, Katsuri. All right, it's time for the next award. We've had the best moment and the most improved. Those are nothing compared to best hair. Now, first of all, I just want to say, the OPL to me lets it down in terms of esports hair. There's just not the wagginess has gone down and down over the years as we've all headed basically into the same haircut.
I will mention though, a lot of our good haircuts have been imported.
That's true.
King had some good hair. He's gone. He always got nice hair, some color in it. Destiny was starting to. I think Destiny won best hair once, but he was starting to do some styles to his hair. So I think a lot of our hair.
Shirt
was. A lot of our good hairstyles were on players who were actually good at the game as well. So I guess they're gone now.
Wow, that's in a moment where we're celebrating the players of Split 1. That was just a double backhand to all of them. All right, let's take a look at the runners-up for best hair. Hit me.
Oh, robbed. He was robbed.
I was not going to vote for the mustache. Come on.
Solely lose.
No
I mean,
way.
There's no way.
No.
It has to be clear that Sully, we are not giving it for the hair on his head. We're giving it for the hair on his lip, which just grew and grew over the course of the split. There it is. My goodness. I mean, I would say he sacrificed the hairstyle on his head to grow the hair on his lip.
How does that lose? That's all I'm saying. If that is not the best hair, I don't know what is.
What are those things called that you wear on your head? Toupees or something? What are they? That's what that looks like.
That is 100% what that looks like. Can I just tell you, we never actually got to this because we got too many other questions in for the Nick bag. But I got an email from Sully's mother saying, "How can I convince him to shave that abomination on his lip?" So even the Sully mum writing in with opinions on the hair. But no, I thought that he was a shoo-in. Clearly not. Let's reveal the winner for best hair. OPL 2020 Split 1.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense.
Come on.
Yeah. Nah, come on. Who's got hair like that in the OPL?
I'm sitting this one out, boys. Robbed. That's all
That's
I'm
the
saying.
goodness right there.
Because, but Spawn, to be fair, if we start opening up best hair to best hair on the lip, then there's other parts of the body that need to be incorporated at that point. And it's just we can't continue down that path. It has to be best hair on the top of the head. We can't. It's just too much information.
And upon further review, I have remembered that Kwaku is also 6'7" and could probably put me through a couple of bookcases. So very happy with the award. Kwaku obviously in the running for Rusty's most approved, and obviously has won best hair for himself.
Absolutely, and also just a lovely dude. So deserving of an award just because he's got a great personality as well as a thick, luscious head of hair. All right, it's time for Rookie of the Split. Obviously. We saw quite a few new players coming into the OPL this split. A lot of new names, a lot of shakeups in the teams, and a lot of people who impressed. Let's take a look at the runners-up for Rookie of the Split.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think Vital, obviously playing in the OPL Grand Final in his first split, is deserving of some form of an award if he doesn't win the OPL title, or does. And CK, much of the same. He came pretty much unknown, climbed the solo queue ladder, and was snapped up. I think Jake said that you knew a lot about him as well previous to the season starting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a guy that when I started running in-houses immediately got promoted into just straight in-house, even though he hadn't been a pro player. Came like highly recommended, and then you just watch him run around on things like Thresh and Bard in solo queue. And you add a couple of people and you start watching their games, and CK is just insane when he plays solo queue. He plays a very structured solo queue game. He's very aggressive. And I think I actually voted for him to win Rookie of the Split because I thought, knowing what I know of the inside of the Chiefs working, that this guy must have improved out of sight and had a really, really good season for them to finish where they did.
Absolutely. So those are the runners-up. Those runners-up also tipping their hand, I would guess, for most of us, to who the winner of this award is, Rookie of the Split. He didn't necessarily end the split with the best performances.
Oh. I do just want to give a special shout out because he's not on this list to Isles, who is also in the finals like Vital and is a rookie in his first split. I mean, I'm just saying that's where my vote went, but I do think that Croc is a very deserving winner, and it's what we would define as the loosest terms of a rookie, right? He's a rookie in OS.
I mean, off the top of my head, and Juves, you played the role, so you would know better than me.
Yep.
But when you think of a carry jungler that can actually carry from the jungle in OPL history, it's probably Shern and Croc as the two highest carry jungles, right? And that's very hard to do in your first year of Premier League play.
There's pretty much only 3 players in the OPL that ever existed that have carried their team from the jungle position. And when I say carried, being the main threat, and that's Croc, Balkan, and Shernfire. And all those players won the OPL, right? Croc, obviously fell out a bit early, but arguably, could have been in the grand finals and we wouldn't have said anything.
Absolutely.
Well done, Croc, for winning Rookie of the Split. I've also just been told there was one more for hair, that there was actually the 4th option, because there were 4 options to vote for. We saw Claire, we got Sulismo, Kwaku won, and then bald people, count you monsters, hair doesn't matter. Do we have a bald person on air in the OPL?
I was bald at the start of the year, wasn't I? Or at some point. I don't know.
I mean, you weren't bald. You were just short hair.
At the end of the
you weren't matte bald.
Hey,
that's true.
Moral of the story is, whether you have hair or don't have hair, it doesn't matter. It's what inside that matters, all right? If you're losing your hair, you have hair, it doesn't matter.
Except for the fact that the award was best hair, and all it was judged from was literally the amount and style of your hair.
That's
in which case, looks do matter.
Before we move on, shout out to one person that definitely wasn't on the list, because it's very easy to vote Rookie of the Split for someone that finished high up the ladder. But someone that I thought stepped into a role that had been depleted due to exports was Lived. I actually think that Lived had a really, really good first split in the OPL, and he was on one of the teams that struggled the most, obviously, in the Mammoth lineup. But he kind of plays everything. I think that the games that Mammoth looked good in, Lived looked like the most dangerous player, and he was pretty consistent. And I know that's tough to be as a rookie on a team that lost a lot. So yeah, I think that he definitely deserves a shout out for Rookie of the Split too.
And shout out you did. Thank you very much, Spawns. All right, it is time to get to the MVP, the Reindeer Medal. This is obviously voted on by the captains of the teams. This is the Player's Choice Award. The person that they think is most deserving of being celebrated for this first split. Let's take a look at the runner-up for Split 1 2020.
Ooh, runner-up.
There he is.
That's what I thought. Though.
Who's to win?
Who's the MVP then?
Kill?
My goodness, Rusty, you are flabbergasted, astounded, bemused, and befuddled.
I'm right now, I can't think of someone who beats him.
Wait,
maybe it's someone else on Legacy?
Can I ask a question? Can you win Rookie of the Split and MVP? Because there's only one other person that's potentially an MVP. Because you've got to keep in mind that it is regular season, right? It's not playoffs.
Absolutely. The question was, can you win Rookie of the Split and MVP? And the answer is, yes, you can. Well done. Congratulations, Croc. You are both the rookie and the most valuable. I mean, has this happened before, Spawn? Enlighten us.
Yeah, I think Balkan. Didn't he
Yeah.
win both
Yeah,
of them, or did
Balkan
Mimic win
did.
at that split? I think Balkan did win both of them, and it's kind of for the similar reason. When you allow captains to vote on it, especially when the captains are a lot of laners, and there's a jungler that's terrifying you in scrims, and bleeds over into the votes. Let me tell you this right now. DOS would have voted for Croc and Balkan both times.
If there's one role that's the most scapegoated role in the world, it's junglers. And so every other jungler, every team that didn't have Croc would have been like, oh man, this jungler's just ganking. Oh man, this jungler's just here again. So it's I understand how they came to that conclusion.
But I do, we didn't really talk about Quinn much. So before we move on to Croc and kind of what he's achieved, Quinn to me is the sleeper person that is still insane, that is an OPL native. He is legitimately good at every single stage of the game. Big shot caller. He's playing with a rookie. He's still finished first. Deep champion pool, plays majors. I was actually watching a game of his 2 years ago where he picked up a pentakill on Karthus bot. I don't know if you guys remember that game when Chiefs played Karthus bottom. Quinn is just we call him the perfect player for a reason. He's insane. He is so damn good at the game. So to come runners up, I'm sure it will stink for him. But I just really want to shout out how good his season has been.
And just to throw it out there as well, he's been playing since 2015. So to be able to rise to the top and stay there for that long is the sign of a hallmark player, right? He's someone who's been around and has been at the best for so long.
And none of us would have been mad if he got MVP, right?
No.
Yeah, I think it was a coin flip, right? You could have given it either way.
Absolutely.
And we have sold the virtues of Croc, obviously, when he won Rookie of the Split. But Skimmy, deserved of the Reindeer medal, apparently, according to the players. But it's not just because they terrorize him. There's a lot of other factors that go into that.
I mean, I've seen so many games where teams have tried to shut him down. I think you date your mind back to that game where he's playing Elise and he just sat top try for a good 2 minutes, right? And still managed to get himself back into that game, down by 30 CS, first 5 minutes. The guy's a monster. And there's been games where, I think he played Graves and he was just 1v9ing, just dashing over Baron pits, just saying, come at me. So this guy, yeah, deservedly so. Definitely the player to watch, the player that I've always been excited to sort of understand, because I can't play jungle at all, as Rusty's seen when we play games.
No one else can play it here either.
Yeah, exactly. And the big thing about Croc, I don't know whether you've listened to his comms, Stews, but he's actually a really good laner, and he identifies lane state opportunities before his lanes even do it. So he'll know if a tower dive's coming before his laner does, and he'll actively tell them to move towards certain objectives on Summoner's Rift. So he's a very intelligent player as well. I've been watching them scrim this week, and it's just really, really a joy to watch him play.
All right. Well, congratulations to all of our award winners. It was a pleasure hanging out and watching you guys over the course of Split 1. We look forward to seeing you again in Split 2 and the shenanigans that will come with that. But we are ready to start getting into the grand final for tonight. It is why we're here. It is Direwolves versus Legacy. I'm going to say goodbye to Rusty and Skimmy as they go off to prepare to cast the next, hopefully, 5 games. Gentlemen, good luck. And we will hear from you very soon.
Cheers.
And if there's a smiting difference, he will get those kills. Bullet time on the back end gets exhausted, so a lot of that damage negated. Tally flashes away on Sub. Bombard. How does the support pop off like that? And that's a beautiful hemo play. Got to multiple members. They shut down all importantly onto Chippies. He gets himself a double kill. The reverse sweep is the dream. Direwolves bring this back. Triple kills. Can we get a quadra? Yes, we can. It's Raze doing what he does. The team fight king.
Trouble.
Drop on the flank again, trying to make something happen. Does manage to disengage, but Vish for a moment. The bouncy castle bullet time. And they are going to dismantle Chiefs.
16 kills to 0. 5 Drakes to the name. A Baron and everything else.
In a counter matchup.
That's the carbon response. That's the legacy win right there. Out comes the paranoia. Now they are blind. Katsuri is about to get his flash up in just under 10 seconds, but it's just not going to be enough. He dies before there's a chance, and they are going to do it. Back-to-back best of 5s. They will defeat the Chiefs, and they will book themselves in the grand finals.
Welcome to Legacy vs. Direwolves, the Split 1 2020 OPL Grand Final presented by NeoSurf. And Juves, we are about to head into, I'm sure we all hope, 5 games of
watch my diet and really just think about the game and think about my opponents.
I think it doesn't matter who you support, whether you're a Legacy fan, Direwolf fan, Chief fan, whatever you are, Order fan. If you're a fan of League of Legends, you want a 5-game series, potentially you want a reverse sweep, or you want a 2-2, game 5 on the line, you want and you just want people to throw it all out there, and I think it's just going to be an exciting series, and I think we will get 5 games.
Absolutely.
And the reason you have to kind of start thinking that way is because of how many veterans are on these 2 lineups. You know, if Chiefs hadn't made it, people would have been questioning their experience. You know, maybe if Avant or Order snuck into the final somehow, you'd be questioning some of their players' experience as well. But these are the 2 oldest teams in the league. They've got the players that have been to the most finals. Experience counts for everything in these big best of 5s. And you have to start looking towards people like Tally, like Chippies, like Rays, that have been there before, that have actually won finals. They know how to play in these big game scenarios.
And obviously, Juves mentioned that you want to leave it all out on the table, but this is not the first time that these 2 teams have met in a grand finals game.
No, absolutely not. 2017, these teams ran into each other. They've also run into each other in a couple of semi-finals as well. And there is a lot of rivalry between Direwolves and Legacy, because they were the 2 teams that were at the start of the OPL. If you go back to the dawn of time, were trying to dethrone the Immunity/Chiefs lineup. And Legacy were the closest team to greatness that I think I've ever seen. They were like suspensions away or a game 5 away from being able to pick up that title, but they were never able to do it. And then Direwolves, through the Schönfire era, just swept in and just won everything. So it would mean so much for this Legacy lineup to battle back from what was a terrible 2019 season and to actually get back to the top. And I, as a League of Legends fan from Australia, you know, Carbon's first as a general manager, Tally's first, Ray's coming over to now the 3rd of the big 3 club and trying to bring them a title. Just the storylines behind this Legacy lineup is insane.
Absolutely. And some of those storylines, you mentioned, obviously, the history of these players, players who've been in the OPL for a long time. We've got these veterans who have turned into coaches, and some of those coaches have turned back into players. Obviously, we've got Direwolves heading into this, and Direwolves come packing with Cupcake. Let's hear from Cupcake about that journey.
On a game day, what do you do to make sure you're prepared for a match?
Well, I want to make sure that I'm not too tired heading into the match, especially because I'm playing from New Zealand and the game starts a lot later for me. So I make sure that I sleep in, have some coffee beforehand, and apart from that, watch my diet and really just think about the game and think about my opponents, especially like potential lane matchups, and kind of visualizing the personalities of the opponent team, like how they're going to be feeling, how they're going to play, and really just like staying mentally involved as much as possible so that I don't get distracted by things outside of the game too much.
What are your thoughts on the Legacy team?
They look like a fluid team. So as a team, like, they synergize well, and individually we might be able to punish them.
What are your thoughts specifically on your opponent, which would be Isles?
Yeah, coming from not many games at all into this year, he's really grown like a hell of a lot. It's really impressive to see. But honestly, I think I have the upper hand in terms of like maturity and experience, especially in like big game matches like this. He hasn't had these high stakes before, so I'm super confident just like going one-on-one against him. I'm ready to dance on the rift with him, show him how it's done.
Wrapping it up, do you have any final words for, you know, some of the players, must possibly raise, you know, your Kiwi brothers?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just really excited for the game. Like, I respect their whole lineup a lot. And yeah, as you said, Quinny, it's gonna be a lot of fun to come up against him because I was on the same team as him last year, and I know we have a lot of mutual respect, and I'm just keen to put on a show.
There it is, the coach the coach turned starting support Cupcake. Speaking there to the pro turned meme lord TikTok girl, Udisoft. Thank you very much, Direwolves, for sending that one in. Juves, this is two teams who have had their share of glory in the past, but also two teams who have seen themselves at the bottom of the ladder within the last year of the OPL. I mean, this is a huge rise back up of two Phoenixes within the scene.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at, Carbon. He's the head of the organization. He's gone out in the offseason, recruited quite heavily. They've even made some big decisions during the regular season and brought in Tally to bolster up that lineup. And I think that, Legacy have rewarded. They've stuck by their guns and what they believe in, and they've been rewarded with a grand final spot. And much to the same of Direwolves, right? It was a team who we said were very emotional. They ride their momentum, but they showed us that they've got that mental resilience along with the skill to reverse sweep and come and make a grand final. So it is the battle of two old guards who are now, one gets the reward, I guess, at the end of the day.
We are 5 minutes away from the champ select. Spawn. We spoke about the fact that this has a lot on the line for both of these teams. There's a lot of history between the players on these teams. Who are you looking at player-wise to stand out tonight? Who needs to make an impression and to really make something of themselves to drag their team across the finish line?
Yeah, look, it would be so easy to point at people on Legacy, but the reality of the situation is, and I don't know whether Juves agrees with this, but I think Legacy come into this game as a unit. They're going to play scaling. They've got shared champion pools. They play everything everywhere. And the reality is if Legacy wins this grand final, a player might play well, but it's probably going to be the structure behind the team that actually allows them to win the game. But if Direwolves win, it will be because Shock has absolutely destroyed Legacy.
Yeah.
I was so surprised. Shock to me was kind of this guy that went over to North America, tried to make it in the LCS over the summer. He has dual citizenship, didn't do it, came back. And I thought that he had, just come back and he was going to kind of meander his way through another season. He destroyed Order in the last 3 games. He took Harry apart. 1 ban on the Azir and then absolutely ran over that series. He also had a really great series against Claire as well. And I think that if he is able to exploit the top laner turn mid laner in Tally, who at the moment looks very, very solid in the mid lane and fix into Legacy's structure, he gives Direwolves a really good fighting chance of being able to take some of these mid to late game fights.
And that's I agree with Spawn, because when Legacy win, there's no, this player just 1v9'd. This player is insane. It's really a solid performance from top all the way to support. And it's evident in the way that they draft. Tally drafts those kind of top lane to mid lane champs that are quite tanky, that have a lot of CC, and they enable, 5v5 team fights out of lane. And I think we haven't seen a team that's been able to develop a large enough lead that it makes up for how cohesive Legacy are as a team. And Direwolves, on the other hand, they win their games by absolutely skill-checking teams. Like you said, Shock with the Oriana ults, Vital in team fights, just absolutely outplaying people on his Aphelios, on his Misfortune. So we have 2 styles. One wants to skill-check you and just beat you in the 1v1 in the 2v2, and Legacy want to beat you in that cohesive, we'll play the map and we'll play team fights. And I think that's why this final is going to be so exciting, because it's 2 polar opposite play styles.
And I think it also is really exciting because of the coaches. Because you have kind of 2 opposite coaches. Kai is there to facilitate a lot of conversation amongst his veterans. I know that he said that before, that he thinks that the brains are within the team. He gives them a lot of counter picks. Jensen rules with an iron fist, man.
Yeah.
He is a straight up hard ass. And I think that Jensen has a lot of experience in scenarios like this, and coach gap is a thing. We don't see it all that often in the OPL, but coach gap is definitely a big factor in this game.
We know draft gap's a big thing too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we are minutes away from getting into game number 1. Quickly, boys, who are you tipping? Spawn, is it going to be Legacy, who have sat by the last couple of weeks and watched as these teams knocked each other out to try to come up and meet them in the grand final? Or is it going to be Direwolves, who have that momentum, who have that hunger to get back to the top where they feel they belong?
Yeah, I mean, Direwolves fans are going to be pissed off against me because I've tipped against them the whole way. But if this was anyone against Legacy, I would be tipping Legacy. They're good enough to get a game, I think. They have earned my respect in the fact that they were able to reverse sweep into best of 5 against the Chiefs. They've got resilience, but I just don't think that they have the ability to close out what is a terrifyingly cohesive Legacy lineup.
Jeeves?
I think I'm going to go Legacy 3-2. I think that Legacy are going to start slow because they've had their time off. I think Direwolves will pinch 1 to 2 games early. I don't know if it goes 1-1, 2-1, but I think Legacy close it out in the end just from, they'll be able to adapt the most throughout the series.
The two League of Legends professionals are tipping Legacy. You may know League, I know myself. Storytelling. The underdogs are going to take it. It is going to be the Direwolves who take it out 3-2. What you can take out is a lot of awards and rewards from NeoSurf, our sponsor and proud partner for the finals here. All you need to do is guess the total gold of all the players over the course of the next game. Head to @OPL on Twitter to enter. Reply to the post there. You can win yourself a legendary skin, an epic skin, and a bunch of masterwork chests and keys. All right, it is time to get into the action. You're guessing your gold. You've got your tips in for who's going to win. It's time for Game 1 of OPL Split 1 2020 Grand Final, Direwolves versus Legacy.
With McDelivery, Macca's comes to you contact-free. This weekend, get free delivery on orders $25 or more via the Uber Eats app with promo code MACCASLOVE.
Four months of hard work culminate in this moment right here. You're looking to get that victory. You're looking to add to that legacy. And for Legacy, this will be their very first trophy if they can take it out today. For Direwolves, that adds to that dynasty of 5. Oh, they'd be looking for that 5th trophy, right? They are looking to close things out. We are already into this draft. There are no time to even talk about what's gone on. We just have to assess the situation and crack on with, obviously, the second ban phase here.
Yeah, so let's take stock of some of the things that have happened, because that's a lot to take in instantly, Skibby, for game 1 of this best of 5. We've got the Yubi taken away from Isles. That was his most played champion alongside the Aphelios in their one series that we've seen them play, and the Aphelios was also taken away here by Direwolves with their first pick. Olaf, the most seen champion from Direwolves because it was flexible between top and jungle, is going to be one of their first 2 lock-ins as well, where the other side of the coin here, when we look at what Legacy have got, they've gone for the Bard for Isles. That's a contested pick between both of these supports. Misfortune to match AD carry role, and Trundle, someone that loves the Olaf matchup.
And this is an interesting one for the jungle because I feel like Miru and Babbitt have a fair few crossovers when it comes to their champion port. I was wondering where we would go in terms of the Jarvan and the Trundle interaction, if that would be of any contest. And also, whenever Direwolves do go blue, start to hang on to this on priority ban, given that Chippies does not want to play that. But speaking of, that guy busted out a fair bunch of champions to get him through consecutive best of 5s to come into this situation. So there is potentially a world in which the Ornn does come out if need be.
Yeah, Ornn's a champion that we'll have to watch for sure here. For Direwolves' side, though, will they ever not ban it? It's definitely going to be a question we monitor through the series. Looking at Legacy's picks now, one thing to note, if it's your first time watching the OPL, because it's the finals, that does happen. Cho'Gath and Gangplank, flexible champions. Tally was a former top laner who has moved to mid lane, and he has very few champions shown in the OPL that are specifically mid lane picks. So he does like to go for these top lane soft counters on mid lane champions. Last series that we saw from him was 4 Galio games. So that was the closest we got to just being a pure mage player. And K1 Skibby just instantly to the Cho'Gath.
Back to that sort of crossover again of top laners coming into the mid and just giving your ability to stay strong, stay consistent, and be an absolute terror. We saw what happened when Raze was able to play the Cogmore, had a bunch of tanks around him. You're sort of starting to see that combination come online again. And we've seen how influential the likes of a GP can be with his Cannon Barrage then assisting in those lanes to make the idea of taking on an objective or making sure that your bot lane can win. That has been a massive, massive factor here. How Vital was able to go up against Katsuri and then up against Rare 7 as as well to not only win their lanes, but able to actually utilize that and go into those team fights with great success, which is where Raze, for the most part, truly excels.
And yeah, so getting to those team fights is going to be a very important thing to track for Direwolves in particular when they take on Legacy. So these two teams stack up more evenly than someone like the Chiefs, who the Direwolves had to get through to be in the finals in the first place. But when you actually look at the Direwolves stats through the playoffs, at 15 minutes, they're behind in almost everything. There is very rarely a situation where they have an advantage. And so they're going to be going into team fights against what is known as the perfect player, against Legacy, who tend to win across the board. And if you want to talk about team fight prowess, Topoon is incredible when he gets his moments. So put all of that into a mixing pot and see what you get. I mean, I worry for the Direwolves if they don't learn how to get those leads in the first 15 minutes of the game. And when you look at the draft, Skimmy, it is possible, and it is something that you would like to see.
Yeah, and it is one of those adaptations, right? Because we spoke at such great lengths in that previous series against Chiefs. You know, do you want to be team fighting? Do you want to try and play it slow like Legacy have done in the past and found good success in? But on that extent, you know, Legacy, last time they played them, they were just going thick, fast, and aggressive, and they were saying, we are better on you, better at you on this level as well, right? So I feel like you come into this one, there are definitely some similarities there between champions, between overall play style, between 1-3-1 mechanics. But I'm really curious, given the fact that, you know, Legacy have only played 4 games in these playoffs versus the 14 that the Direwolves have had to show and had to reveal a lot more. Yes, you've had another week for prep, but what we're seeing so far, as you'd expect in an opening game, is going to be that stock standard.
Even as a viewer, man, you've learnt a lot about the Direwolves because they have just played so many games. They've been pushed to the limit multiple times, and there are things that you've seen in just the way that they played when behind that starts to crop up. One of those examples being when Direwolves have their backs against the wall, Malphite suddenly was a champion that they started to play. They looked at the Jarvan Orianna combo as well to try and get these big 5v5s, these big wombos. It's less so being seen in this first game, but you always know, if you were Legacy and if you were a viewer of the OPL, that that's a default that they can go back to at any time.
Well, let's kick it off here, Rusty. It is the grand finals for the OPL Split 1 this year. It's been done from home, but that is not taking any of the excitement away from it. All the viewers in chat, I'm very sure that you're excited for this one. Not only that, but you can obviously get yourself some sweet skins if you head over to @OPL on Twitter, participate in the NeoSurf competition, and snag yourself a few rewards of your own. The players obviously playing for that coveted trophy, the glory, the title, everything that comes with being a competitive player, but why not get yourself something at the same time too?
I mean, Legacy have been at 8 playoffs, Skibby. They finished top 3 in 8 playoffs, and they haven't got a victory yet. They need this. Tally has been there for 6 of them, Skivvy, and they haven't been able to get a win. And this is the season, 100% where you should say they're coming in the favourites. Now, they aren't the ones with the momentum. They haven't played the 14 games to get here and, you know, earn the right to win the finals itself. That is the Direwolves. But Legacy should be expected to come into this first game red hot with all of the experience that that roster has.
Let's speak about this one in particular a little bit in the mid lane. Shock getting a Syndra. It's been something that's been denied away from him on a very constant basis. The fact that in game 1 he's able to get that, and kind of almost what the analyst was saying on the Hangout section before about, you know, they come in with this momentum. Is game 1 going to be where they can really flex that and say, yes, we have played 10 more games than you. We can use this to our great advantage.
I think it's worth pointing out that there's been a week between series. You know, that momentum that we saw even from like when Order were playing last year in their massive gauntlet run that they tried to make. The second there was a week off, it was a different team. It's a different best of 5, and you set yourself up from square one kind of all over again. Right? That's a whole week that Legacy have now spent preparing and planning for the sample size that you gave them as well. Looking towards the mid lane though, Skippy, you've got this Cho'Gath into Syndra. You've got this matchup that Shock would be actually quite familiar with, even though Cho'Gath is not the most seen champion. And Cho'Gath cops it a lot in all of his lanes where it is melee versus range, but he tends to just win that war of attrition if he is consistently still able to last hit. Getting that health and mana back per last hit obviously going to be a big deal. And Syndra will run herself out of mana before he could take down Tally, in this case, if Tally still gets those farms. And he is right now, still 13 to 14.
Yeah, we've seen definitely in the last series, Tally very forgiving in the sense of I can afford to fall behind in my own respective matchup as long as I can get my solo laners online, as long as I can get the rest of my team in a comfortable situation where they do have that gold XP difference or they have that significant item power spike as a result. I mean, they've built this tanky composition. There's obviously a lot of threats that Diables present to get into that backline and try and then reach the likes of Raze. I'm very curious to see not only how he positions himself, but how Isles can utilize the Bard kit to add to that protection.
There were so many things that were ready to unpack coming into this one, and Draft just came at us so quickly that it's been really hard to kind of hit them all. Cupcake gonna dash forwards here.
Yeah, well, Isles has left him for a second right now. That's going to be a concussive blow that lands. As a result, Exhaust comes out to Gravitum to follow. Exhaust then goes back out on towards Vital. Both AD carries quite low, but a top lane gank takes place at the exact same time. Chippy's in a spot above it. He does have his flash. He will hang on to it. First blood goes to Legacy.
Yeah, we saw action happening bot lane Skimmy, but top lane Chippies, you saw the trade happening earlier into the game. The level 1 advantage for Topoon that starts to really add up and become far too much for Chippies to deal with. He has the teleporter, he will get back to lane, but that's the first kill going over to Topoon, who also, it's worth noting, got that free reset in. He had such strong lane control and was trading so well that he just walked back to top lane before getting those kills. So that advantage will be tangible very quickly, being able to get that Sheen ASAP.
Teleport used by Chippies to get himself back to the lane, so he doesn't lose too much as a result of that. But as you highlight, Topoon now going to be in a great situation. If they were to look to contest an objective, be it the Drake that is just about to spawn, but already an explosive start in that bottom lane where we wanted to see it, that big contest between the likes of Vital and Rage, showing who is the better laner, the better player in just carrying potential to make this best of 5 series a joy to behold.
Chippy cycling through his Q3 there instead of refreshing some of the cooldown to continue last hitting those waves. He's going to control ward the Tri-Bush here as well, so he's very afraid. He's going to try and keep constant vision. Now that does mean that Topoon will never be at risk of being ganked himself. I mean, it's very hard to navigate through this side of the map now if you are Mir, just because those wards have been placed defensively on Chippy's point of view and not going to be clearing any of Topoon's.
Well, Mir has been pubbing towards this bottom side of the map, so he will be able to get to this dragon. Scuttle has obviously been taken by Legacy, so they'll be well aware of his positioning, but he has been able to find a healthy CS advantage from those camp clears as a result of not going for that gank. That's going to find them prior in the bot lane as the reset took place. I also look to get themselves on the board by achieving this first Infernal Drake. But Legacy are looking to try and contest right now. They're not going to be able to steal it away. Out comes the Cannon Barrage. That's going to force out a flash. That's the Predator. That's the damage. And that's the magical journey. Tally says hello and executes with the feast.
Yeah, and Mir not going to be able to take the explosive plant because he's altered. Look at
Raze towards here, Raze. He's forced to burn a flash as well. And the duo can merely just watch him from across that wall. But Direwolves are definitely looking for any kind of counteraction.
Yeah, still trying to hit some punishes, really looking for those 1% advantages here. You know, that was cheating a movement through the bot side river, getting to lane Raze, caught out of position and has to flash. Remember the trade that happened earlier? Direwolves have very clearly set the game plan in this 2v2, and they have said that if you ever leave lane Isles, we are going on Raze instantly, and they are trying to execute on that every single time with consistency right now, getting Summoner Spell after Summoner Spell.
They are able to force him out. Now, bear in mind, this is a misfortune with teleports. This does not have your barrier. This does not have your heal or your cleanse. This is a misfortune that wants to play the macro, that wants to farm hard, that wants to have as many items as possible over everybody else in this game, that he can be that threat, so that bullet time can really pack a punch.
Yeah, most definitely. And when you're looking for something like the Rift Herald that'll be up in 50 seconds, it's going to be an advantage that Legacy will have for themselves. And not to mention, as you're looking at him on your screen, Topoon is very fed. He has the 101 scoreline, but most importantly has picked up that Sheen. And that usually is the turning point for any Gangplank lane. And even against the Aatrox, where you're stronger before that Sheen spike, this only amplifies you further. So in a very comfortable position on the top side of the map here, Legacy, and when you look towards their bot lane having the teleport, you would expect Herald should be a cakewalk.
The dream situation for a GP to find yourself this far ahead at this early stage of the game. Chippy's going to do a lot of damage there with his complete combo. The root won't connect. Out goes the Scurvy Cleanse. The flash goes forward. The flash to disengage. Chippy's looking for the final one. Ooh. And he will connect. Action in the top lane to trade things out. but you speak about it for just 2 seconds, and Direwolves want to make something happen on the bottom side of the map too.
Yeah, I mean, the one moment we talk about what Top Moon's got for himself, suddenly he's the one getting killed. Chippy's nicely picks himself up a solo kill. You have to give credit to just the mechanical prowess of the top laner up there. Very much against the grain. Of course, when Aatrox does hit level 6, he has that opportunity to try and punish, and he gets the extreme best case scenario as that outcome.
Tapoon now will come back to this lane with an Executioners to work against Aatrox's passive, make it a little bit easier in situations like such. Chippy's definitely going to flirt with danger and showcase that this lane is far from over despite the difference in gold and XP and even CS. This is a champion that I am comfortable on, and I will make things happen on the Rift.
We're now looking towards the next objective in the game. He was spotted going over the Scuttle Crab to even get to it. Babip, of course, is going to be a blue buff, so the contest is not going to be there for any time just yet. Even the ward going down from top lane, basically just confirmation, now unfortunately isn't going to have a ward for himself in that tri-bush to protect him, as the map flip from Direwolves comes first. And if you want to talk about momentum swings in a game in itself, Chippies basically did it single-handedly for the side of Direwolves to net themselves another objective where it was the teleport advantage and arguably strength as well going Legacy's way.
And this is an interesting call because you've got to weigh up the situation. What is the absolute outcome of this one? Direwolves have sent their duo top. They've got Mir now with that Rift Herald to plop down to look to execute this turret, but they've been leaving Raze down on this bottom side of the map the entire time. Isles has gone elsewhere. They're getting all these free plates across the Raze, and Babip showed up there too just to assist.
No, so the reason this is big, Skibby, is you have to remember the Bard can counter Rift Herald. He can just use the ultimate, and the charge doesn't go off. So if you want to talk about tempo plays here, 1, you saw the Gangplank ultimate. 2, they put Isles just in ult range of the turret so that Herald can't win the race. And 3, they were pushing bottom lane going for plates. So at the end of the day, it completely negates what is usually a constant flowing style of game. Once the Herald is secured, you go to the closest outer turret, you break that even if your opponents are trading because you get the whole turret for plates. It's not going to be seen in this game.
And you can see as a result, Legacy still hang on to that gold lead. Now we will see the transition go across as Raze has used that teleport to now match. 10 minutes into this one, Neosurf competition has now closed, so if you missed out on this one, unlucky, but you will get another chance in the second game. But this is looking to shape up to be a good one so far here, Rusty.
Yeah, for sure. You can see both teams pretty much firing when it comes to their macro and their planning strategically in this game. We're looking at the mechanical differences so far, really being a very severe punishment in Topoon's way, after he was already controlling that lane first, and now top lane finds itself even. You're looking at bot lane, farm's the same, even though it was the teleport to the heal. But there was punishes from Direwolves. The confidence hasn't been lost on either of these teams in Game 1 of the finals.
Vital has actually rushed straight to those tier 2 boots. Got the Berserker Greaves online right now. Bullet time going to come out here from Raze to make sure that once again, despite all their best efforts, Direwolves cannot try and force this one down. Out comes the Rift Herald. Members are in place. Tempered Fate can be used if need be.
And exactly what we were talking about, Skimmy, that denies the Herald in its entirety. And I feel like Direwolves were just pressured to use that in the first place. They were just running out of time on the objective itself. Maybe they could have tried to play cheekily across the map, summoning it so the Bard couldn't do that. But nice play here from Isles, and the expected result, honestly, as the turret stands.
He's going to back himself up as they look to go forward onto this one. Glacial Fissure for the disengage, the trophy, the damage, the Cosmic Binding, everything being thrown into that one to try and find a kill. The disengage attempt is successful.
Mid lane.
Mid lane is where the action now takes place, and that is going to be a respected flash having to be burnt here for the Cho'Gath.
Yeah, he'll survive, however. That Null Magic Mantle going to do some wonders for at least survivability. However, the Direwolves are the ones controlling the objectives in this game. It is the second Drake now at 12 minutes into their pockets, uncontested. They had the first Herald. They really are poised to try and gain some control around Summoner's Rift, but still, you can see all of that happening. Mid lane, though.
This is going to force a flash. There it is. The CC, the GLP to really start things off with, and all the follow-up that would come from that combination of mid-jungle. Syndra would have been in a living hell. But this is a dream situation. We've seen Jensen say this so many times as a team. We're prepared to give up the first 2 Drakes, and this would be the dream situation with this tanky composition. 4 Mountain Drakes back-to-back? Say no more.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, what are they giving up by giving these objectives over? One, they denied the Herald, so it didn't actually get anything. They contested the first Drake, but yes, they had to give it up. Fair enough, it happens, and they still get a kill for it. They are ahead in gold, you know, considering all of the time spent on these objectives, so they can't really complain at all. You'd be pretty happy if you were Legacy, as a teleport comes in top lane.
Yeah, it does. Tally is looking for a GLP to start things off with right now. Up goes the shield. The exhaust comes out as well. Race has no mana, so going to be literally looking to auto-attack his way down to death. Cupcake zoned away, but the double kill comes out, and that is Babbitt going huge on the troll. The Cannon Barrage adds to the mix, and the momentum shifts in a heartbeat in that top lane.
Yeah, more turret plates will fall in top lane. Potentially the entire turret itself. We'll see how much that defensive bonus actually provides. They've got 8 seconds to get one more plate here if they can. At the very least, they'll be able to get that. Now that the plates will fall off, however, that turret will definitely fall on the next wave, as there's no bonus resistances to keep that alive. Legacy, they're the ones who put themselves with their best foot forwards, even though they've lost those objectives. And like mentioned, they find themselves in a position to win still.
Very healthy in this situation right now, putting gold on the members that will matter. Let's check with that replay to see how it all started, because this teleport comes in and Divers panic.
And it started minutes ago, because there was no flash available for Vital. And just like that, you know, Cupcake trying to save the life of his AD carry, sacrifices himself for it. Remember that at all times, Gangplank can use that ultimate, have that cross-map effect as well. And it was Tally, the mid laner's teleport, that kicks all of that off. Their punishes are without hesitation, Legacy. They know exactly what they're here for.
Well, as you can see now, the gold count shows that every lane is winning so far for Legacy, contributing to what is slowly building into a 3,000 gold lead for them as a whole. First major item completed on Raze with that Essence Reaver. Gonna make life a little bit easier. And we're gonna see, no doubt now, a bit more of an idea towards maybe really contesting and setting up more accordingly for these subsequent Drakes.
Yeah, kind of not showing themselves at the present moment is a lot of the members of Legacy. Isles is, of course, going to be revealed as he's clearing vision. But Raze was helping to do the Raptors. I think they had an idea that this Herald was something worth looking at. But now they're going to go back towards their natural lane assignments. Of course, we have flipped the map in Divals. They're just going to kick off the objective on spawn. And the second a war goes down to say, are they doing this? It's gone.
First 4 objectives go the way of the Direwolves. And see Legacy don't show any signs of desperation or panic. Quite content keeping to their own device and doing what has been successful for the first 15 minutes into this game. We're going to see another gank attempt take place in the bottom side of the map. Worldender comes out online very early on. They show face, but that's just it. Chippies can walk away from this lane and retain both summoners.
Admittedly, getting that Worldender out is going to be pretty important for enabling Topoon to at least control the lane better. Means it's a lot easier to take trades. Less healing, going to be there from the potential all-in. Tally, now you're looking in mid lane, able to press one button and clear the entire back wave. Bard has ultimate for the turret, but they're going in.
That's a double lock in place with the Tempered Fate right now, making it very easy for the subsequent CC to land. Out comes the teleport for Aatrox to try and assist in this situation. Vital very low, but the heal comes out just in the nick of time. Exhaust, knock up, Chippy's in trouble, force the flesh away back into the river. The Herald does its job, but Dial still on the back foot.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like you mentioned, Herald did its job. The turret still falls. Dial's now going to try and hold this mid lane outer turret. The pressure is building, though, and a lot of missing health bars, and the long way around was required here by the Divals, but they will be able to hold, at least for this wave. Still, the gold lead grows, though, in favor of Legacy. They're hitting those item spikes, and they are starting to become much more terrifying, running around as a 5-man unit.
Waiting for those ultimates to come back online. 15 seconds, and we have our first Mountain Drake of the game. That'll be the soul that these two teams will be looking to play for. This poised Legacy in a good situation, having to burn out flashes and responses. And it can push out those lanes and set up quite nicely for this Drake, as we expected.
Yeah, lots of respect here shown by Topoon. Doesn't want to commit himself to the turret, make sure he wants to be around the objective as it spawns. And you can see this is where they draw the line, Legacy. They've got some tanky members in their composition. They will love to have 4 Mountain Drakes. And they get the first one off spawn, so some resilience here, some signs of life, objectively speaking, from the Legacy camp.
Some big spikes in the item department came as a result of that one. Now you got the Trinity Force completed for the GP. The response beat Chippy's going for a Death's Dance Rush, obviously with its new change. Incredibly strong, expensive item, but just gives you so much bang for your buck.
So the interesting thing with this build is that he has foregone a Phage and has foregone the entire Black Cleaver in the itemization. Usually this is his second item. Now Black Cleaver provides 20% CDR, and the Phage movement speed on hit is a very big deal, you know, for ensuring that people can't just walk away from an Aatrox. So now to me, with the build that he currently has, he's very ultimate reliant to actually have high kill threat. But what this does provide is against a champion like a Gangplank, you're going to have better sustain to stay in that lane. Your sticking power for laning is going to be a lot higher, while it isn't for the champions until those two items are done.
Catering much to what Chippy's strength has always been, or sticking to those side lanes, creating pressure, forcing out responses. And in this case, obviously matching Tapoon. We're going to see Raze pick up double buffs right now, and how he looks to use those, we'll have to wait and see, as Direwolves for the umpteenth time now show face in the top lane, and they will finally take down that outer.
Yeah, numbers advantage eventually starts to become too much. No Bard ultimate going to be used this time on a Herald to prevent that turret from falling down, and the turret that should have been gone already finally will drop. Tapoon's at that point, by the way, where he's one-hitting those minions, level 13 on his Gangplank as well. Starting to get those big spike timings here. But I mean, the same thing can be said across on the other side. Direwolves, they have got their full first item, starting to build towards the second. My eyes go towards the Syndra, however, as we have seen a very low impact from Shock so far. And we've seen Tally be much more active around the Rift. And so far, that stress test coming into this first game, Tally's been doing wonderfully.
Absolutely. I mean, Legacy have been playing like a roaming gank squad, just running at you, knowing that they have these big, meaty health bars to play around with. It can be quite forgiving. They don't have to be too worried about face-checking brushes or walking into the abyss and not knowing what to expect. But we're going to see the pressure continue to mount in this bottom lane. Tapoon going to keep Chippy's resigned at this tower as he's now free to roam and rejoin his team for what looks to be a fight in the mid lane. Out comes the GP ult. And looks like Legacy are forcing this mid turret now.
Yeah, unfortunately that Gangplank ultimate's not going to be doing too much in the end. Mir's going to be here to defend, but Cupcake very low.
Incredibly low. Does get out of harm's way without having to burn any flash.
Once again, they will be able to repel the Legacy forces, keep them at bay at the very least. The cost of their health bars was very high for that one. But what matters is that they hold it down. Still getting towards those items, Skibby. That's the thing, you know, you've got the Aphelios on your team, you're building towards your second, looking for the third, and you'll be very capable in these team fights. Not to say that a misfortune isn't, but I think if I was to put a time on this game, the second item spikes for Direwolves is the moment where they really need to start building a lead. Because I worry for them past that point, it becomes way too important for just Vital to go above and beyond after.
And that's what we like to see on that Aphelios, right? Once the Hurricane is complemented there with the Essence Reaver, you just do so much damage. And if you get those desirable weapons online at the same time, you can do those 1v5 crazy scenarios that we've seen be rewarded with pentakills. Quick stock check with the supports. Both now have stopwatches online, so we'll be able to present a major threat, bait out some attention. Redemption online for Isles right now. That could be a big deciding factor, given that this comp that Legacy have will be looking to stay clumped and find maximum value from the heal.
Oh, Cupcake got mega caught there, had to actually jump over the pillar. Of course, he's not going to get stunned because he puts up the door. And while we are looking at those support items, Skibby, the definite advantage belonging to Isles because it's still components for Cupcake, waiting to finish that Gargoyle's Stone Plate. Very cheap item builder here as well from Tally, so he hits his 2 item spikes incredibly quick, and it will do the same thing with his third if he goes towards the zone, his Hourglass. And a Knight's Vow, actually, the second item of choice here from Babip, so very much protective of whoever he connects that one to. You would say presumably going to be Raze. And so hot to trot here, honestly, is the entire Legacy roster, and this Drake is up in 15 seconds.
Been very firm in their belief of holding mid and bot. Out comes the Tempered Fate, and it does connect with Vital. He has Flash, he has Heal. Burns Flash incredibly early on. Now they turn around with the Moonlight Vigil, and that finds a 4-man Root. Out goes the stopwatch, buying with their time. Isles gets out with the Magical Journey, but Shock deletes him with the orb explosion. Legacy cannot find a window to retaliate just yet, and the Drake has just spawned.
Yeah, just the 1-for-0 trade in the end, but with the health bar still high enough here from the side of the Direwolves, that's a trade they'll very happily take, because they can walk over to the Drake, no contest from the Legacy side. And that mid-game team fighting starting to go the Direwolves' way, just barely, but it was, and that's all that it takes. Now they find themselves on Mountain Soul Point.
Mentioned it was a bit of a quiet game for Shock, especially on a champion he's very proficient at, one that is always denied away from him, but he finally unleashes his power, literally, and is able to get a kill to get himself online and add to the CS advantage over his counterpart.
So it feels like, if we take stock of the players themselves, this first game is no issue for Direwolves. And the reason that this is worth bringing up is, let's take a second to talk about the rookies that are on these teams. Isles, in his first ever split, in his first ever finals. He's doing fine. 0, 1, and 3, seems to have a fine performance on this Bard so far and in this best of 5. Vital, it seems like nothing can phase that guy. Just an iron will, and Mir in his first finals as well. I mean, so far so good from the Direwolves side. Like, nothing's ever changed for them. You know, just another week of the OPL. The pressure, of course, is yet to build. But you have to be pleased with how it's going so far.
That is your absolute favourite moment as a Bard. Just glitching yourself out there with the magical journey. And that really, I suppose, adds to the narrative that you were mentioning. Not phased, having a good time.
Of course, the pressure does build through the subsequent games that we will be seeing, particularly when results start to go against you. That's when you see the real class that is behind these players, as Isles will once again take himself a journey to safety, as Mir smacks him around with an axe a few times. Now looking to up the pressure, now looking to up the tempo in this game. They're looking for Baron control, but they need to get rid of the vision from Legacy first. And the problem is that side lane pressure, right? There's a Cho'Gath and a Gangplank. They can plant themselves in a 1-3-1 if they wanted. They could just do a 1-4. And Gangplank's wave clear is so incredibly quick. Chippies is going to spend a lot of his time stuck under the turret.
There goes the Tempered Fate. Ragnarok is the immediate response now. Direwolves have been doing such a great job of controlling the Baron River, bullying out members of Legacy that wanted to try and dictate that vision, turn it around in their favor. But now you've denied a crucial ultimate, the CC denial component that allows the Baron or potentially a Dragon just to be a little bit harder to contest.
It makes being a Chad for vision control a lot harder to do. A bit of pressure now going to be placed in mid lane, of course, by Tally. A Glacial Augment Cho'Gath with those 2 items completed like we mentioned before. He's a nuisance. And imagine you're an Olaf and you just want to get some wards down with Cupcake. Well, you have to go first. But if you don't have the ultimate, Tally could knock you up and suddenly you are in a whole lot of trouble. So now more members get brought to the vision control game that Direwolves are stuck in playing. This cycle could continue for minutes on end if there is no significant difference made. And also it is the Trinity Force rush here by Chippies as his second item instead of the Black Cleaver.
And to add to that, you have to imagine this delay actually favors Direwolves, because not only are they waiting for Chippy's teleport to come back online, and he's to obviously respond to the pressure Tapoon keeps putting on that side of the map, but now Ragnarok is back, and Mira can go back to his deviant ways.
Yeah, it just means that, you know, they can more safely or more effectively clear those wards with 2 people. Of course, Isles often finds himself alone, and here they go looking for Shock.
Out goes to GLP once again. An immediate response there is to flash away. Now Shock in a bit of trouble. The door goes up. The bullet time comes out. Tempered Fate lands. Shock needs to be protected. He needs one auto, and he will receive it. Isles picks that one up. The Duke and Jive in mid lane finally culminating in a kill, and Legacy take that numbers advantage and run it straight to Baron.
Just so much pressure and so much zone control from the team of Legacy. Direwolves are here. They've got the Aatrox around. He doesn't have teleport, so he's walked. They will contest this 100%. They're a bit low already from just the Baron health, so Tally has to come in and tank. The Direwolves are going to concede. They just give it up.
5 objectives going the way of Direwolves, but the Baron will not be one of them. Legacy win out that war of attrition of hanging around playing ARAM. They are the alphas, and they will now find themselves not only in that gold lead, but with a significant power spike advantage now.
And that's the point in the game where Legacy's composition really does prosper, though. So, like, again, take note of the fact that they have a Trundle Pillar, a Bard Ultimate, a Glacial Augment Cho'Gath, and a Gangplank Ultimate as well that can be done from across the entire map. If they pick someone off, that person is in a whole lot of trouble. They chose Shock, they almost took Cupcake out with him, and just like that, the Baron goes their way.
Out goes the Ghost. Same with the GLP. Now looking to put out a lot of damage on towards Babbitt because the next Drake is available. Bear in mind, Direwolves are sitting on Mountain Drake Soul Point. They would love to have this. But potentially it is a world in which they are quite happy to give it away. They don't want to have an Elder online as a result. The Tempered Fate goes out. A lot is negated there by the bullet time, but Shock gets deleted after going into that golden trophy form. It spelt disaster. It spelt doom. And a double kill here is picked up by the Cho'Gath. They are running amok right now. So tanky, so strong, and so contagious to find you at any moment and anywhere on this map.
Yeah, Chippies has to flash away. Everyone from Direwolves just running constantly. Cupcake sacrifices himself to try and keep Shock alive, but to no avail as he goes down as well. Legacy, they will repel the Soul Point. They will get a second Mountain Drake for themselves as well. Tally doesn't have the ult to feast on this one. They might be waiting for that cooldown, actually. Yes, they definitely are. Vital.
They're just going to look for fights elsewhere. Rage just bullies him. And a lot of that comes to having significant advantages with the BF items.
Oh my god. My
they
man
just
has 11
win.
stacks. Skimmy has 11 stacks. He's about to tick over to level 16 and just be the size of Summoner's Rift.
How do you stop him at this stage?
Your team needs 7 champions.
Need the Baron to shred his resistances, shred his damage. And then
we
maybe...
are at that point though, yeah, once again, Bartle.
Oh, that's massive from Miles right now. Locks free in place. Out comes Tally with the movement speed from the teleport. Knocks up, Shock devours his soul. He's in the game for half a second, but deleted just after. Legacy are showing up to this team fight with such conviction. Exhaust goes out, but it literally does nothing. The tower falls on down. They are hungry for an ace. They'll find the Quadra. Cupcake left at the tower, defending mid inhibitor. 30 minutes into this one, and Legacy have had enough.
And Tally's ultimate is back up and available, so can they even defend the Nexus itself is to be determined here. They will continue to push forwards. One knock-up, one piece of crowd control connects, and Tally will one-hit them.
Oh, Babbitt flash forward. He's doing it. The pillar goes down, and there's nothing you can do to prevent that. The damage connects. Legacy angry. They hit the switch, and they open up this grand final with a convincing game 1.
30 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock as the Nexus dies here, and that was a very one-sided affair. In the end, there were some moments where Direwolves seemed like they were in the game. You know, their objective control was on point. They were getting what they needed. But when the switch is flicked by the side of Legacy, when their composition really comes into effect, you know, get those 2 items on the Cho'Gath, there was no stopping them. And that pick composition made Syndra seem like the worst possible pick, when really it was just Legacy playing well.
And that has to be such a dampener, right, to your ego, to get a comfort champion that's been so many times banned away from you to say, here, have it. We absolutely do not care. You can have it, but you're not going to be able to do anything on it. And I wonder, as the series progresses, that starts to play a mental toll on, well, can I play this? Do I have to be creative? Do I have to do something wacky and combine with the likes of, you know, Chippies where he's busting out Vladimir's, for example?
I mean, a lot of Shock's champions are very low mobility, and this is what happens when 2 teams can actually challenge for the Bard pick, and Legacy are able to pick that one against you. You can see what happens.
It was brutal, it was savage, and ultimately it got wrecked, and well, that does it for game number 1. I believe we have Nick on standby with the crew. We're not jumping to a break. We're just jumping straight into the mix to see what the boys have to think about that game 1. It's grand finals, and it was a banger to start off with there, Nick.
It was a banger. Jump into us. Thank you very much, Skimmy and Rusty. I mean, the Direwolves spawn understand drama because they're perfectly setting up that reverse sweep that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those games where it was over until it wasn't over. And what I mean by that is, like, if you draw these 2 comps up perfectly and you remove who was playing what, you could kind of tell that Direwolves were on the left-hand side of the screen with, like, tempo jungler, winning lanes top as well as mid. You know, the ability to be able to force things early. They get the first 2 dragons of the game. They get both the Rift Heralds. And then it kind of just doesn't matter. And it's happened so many times with these Legacy lineups. They just cede early game pressure until laning phase is over, then they completely destroy you.
And, you know, the narrative that we said about Legacy being a real team-based team, where they make decisions and get their leads together really came to fruition this game. We saw pretty much the biggest, I say, the moment that kind of blew the game open was Tally's TP into top lane, getting 2 kills on the Trundle and breaking open that top tower. And everything they do is just together. And it's a really hard thing, I think, to play against when they're that kind of cohesive.
Absolutely, and I don't want to harp on this too much because it is a really in-depth theory, right? But I was listening to LS last night. I don't know if you guys tuned in, and he was saying how League of Legends is an open draft. It's face up. You get to see the cards that people are playing, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're the Direwolves, obviously you have to pick first, so you're at an inherent disadvantage. But this is a complete blue draft coming out of Legacy. For people that know Magic the Gathering, right? This is a counter composition, and what I mean by that is you've got Olaf, Syndra, Aphelios that all don't have movement speed augmentation. They are very low mobility. They're not immobile, they can move, but they are very low mobility, especially without flash. And in that mid game, there was a team fight where both Syndra and Aphelios didn't have flash, and both of them were a pillar or a Cho'Gath knock-up or an Isles ulti away from just not being able to play the fight completely. So you got to give a lot of credit to the Legacy lineup. What they did is they kind of took away the mobile options that Direwolves like to play, got them onto these immobile carries, and then picked a heavy counter comp for what they want to do, which is ARAM, group up, and have heavy CC team fights. So once again, this is what I mean that Jensen is a very smart guy. No one else is playing Gangplank. No one else is playing Cho'Gath mid, but he knows against the Direwolves that they will take these greedy hyper carries, and this is his way of punishing them.
The last thing I want to... Sorry.
No, you go, Juice.
Yeah. The last thing I want to touch on too about draft is that I think a blessing in disguise is the fact that Legacy's mid laner was a top laner. I think it creates such a problem for teams to draft against. The fact that he can play Glacial Cho'Gath, no one else in the region, in any region's playing it. He plays he's on mid, he plays Galio mid, he plays stuff mid that really enables everyone else on his team. But the Cho'Gath we saw was just what could Syndra do? There's no one-shot potential, right? As soon as you take that one-shot potential and skirmish potential off their mid lane, their mid and jungle duo, there's nothing for Direwolves to do. And I think that a key to Legacy to keeping this momentum and keep it going forward is getting those niche picks onto Tally. Some stuff that kind of ignores laning phase, but has massive impact outside of lane.
I mean, Tally was a huge pickup for Legacy mid-split. Do you think, Jules? Do you think that that was a key component, this sort of difficult champion pool to be a matching up against? Is that a key component to what Legacy are taking into this Grand Final series?
Yeah, so I think Tally actually changed the way that Legacy sort of played the game. We saw with MNS, they kind of put all their eggs in the MNS basket, and when Legacy played the game, it was can we get all the gold and resources onto him? Can he hit level 16 on KO and just 1v9 a game? With Tally, I think it's been a blessing for them because Raze has been known as the player who will always... He's a team fight player. He's the perfect player, right? We want to get him to team fights and he'll get a pentakill every day of the week. Ios, we've seen him in team fights has been really insane. It seems like they as individuals, they're all just team fight players and they didn't... And now they have a mid laner that really enables that.
And Jimmy is actually Tally. Sorry.
Yeah.
Having him on my team for 2 years. He actually came to a realization midway through 2018 that he can play weak side really, really well. When he was on Legacy the first time around, he was a strong side player, right? But in saying that, he also has carry pick, so he can't be ignored, right? So he's not a guy. It's not like if you give him counter pick, it's not like he won't expose a lane. But he is just super comfortable trusting people on his team. He actually his trust factor is 10. Yeah. So he would know in this draft exactly what his role is. He would be saying to his teammates, let me go down 20 CS. Only come past and pillar for the flash. Don't repeat gank. With that flash, I'm going to get priority. I'm going to move around the map. I'm going to get the carries fed. He knows he's got a gangplank. He knows he's got a misfortune. The reality of the situation is the Cho'Gath is there for CC and to be really, really frustrating to play against for his own control. He's not necessarily there for the one-shot, although he can do that. And James is just so good at understanding his role within the team. He is one of the best no-ego players I think I've ever had on a team. He just wants the comp to play the way the comp is supposed to play.
And let me give you a little bit of an insight. It's like a professional jungler in a best of series. as a jungler, you have so many things to worry about, right? You have your mid lane, your top lane, and your bot lane to worry about. If you have a mid laner who is that stable and that happy to be kind of like, I call mid lane's not really a weak side of the map, is it? It's in the middle. But if you have a mid laner who's willing to kind of just sack and fall behind just a little bit, and he's still going to be very relevant and still going to be at the plays that you're making, it makes your life as a jungler so much easier, because now you just have either your top lane to play to or your bot lane, and you can just drive by mid lane like Jake said. So it's like it has a flow-on effect to the rest of the team. It lets your players kind of come out of their shell and play to their strengths and their full potential. As we can see, that game for me, Babip was a standout.
Absolutely, because let's break it down what actually happened in this game. So if you're Babip, the most easy area to gank is probably mid lane. So Syndra has no dash, only has flash, right? You got a Trundle, you got a Cho'Gath. If you land any CC while she's pushing, she's going to be chased down, she's going to die. But James wouldn't be calling for that. Tally wouldn't be calling for that. He'll be calling for scaling, right? And so the area that Direwolves win or lose the game by normally in the early game is chippies. And Gangplank Trundle doesn't sound like it's a scary ganking duo, but Babip just picked his windows really well. Topoon played level 1 really well. So all of a sudden, the side of the map that you thought was going to be winning really heavily for the Direwolves in the early game, having this heavy push, is the Aatrox, and it gets completely shut down. On the flip side of that, you're expecting your Aatrox to win, so you're not necessarily up there if you're the Olaf. There's no turret dive to have against Gangplank. You instead go down bottom and win bot, Quinn got caught out 2 times there, and Vital and Cupcake actually punished really well with a good hover from Miru. But the fact that the mid lane was just isolated the whole time, and it's a Cho'Gath that was more useful than the Syndra. I mean, I said the only way that Direwolves win this series is if Shock outperforms Tally, right? And that game right there is just a perfectly example of if this is an isolated mid lane, I think that Tally is just smarter. I think he has too many tricks. It's not that he's mechanically better. He's just very, very savvy at the game of League of Legends.
So, Spawn, obviously we saw Direwolves, the game slipped away from them pretty quickly. There was some drafting that, potentially they're drafting towards their playstyle well. What can they take from that first game? What do they need to double down on now that they have checked up against Legacy and seen how determined this team is to very clearly crush them? Generally,
in the middle of a best of 5, you don't want to learn new concepts, right, Nick? This series should be the culmination of all the work you've put in throughout the split, and there should be a celebration of how far you've come together as a team. But if I'm Kai, I'm pulling out a replay of this game, and I'm literally telling my team how to play against Bard, because they dropped double Herald into Bard lane with side on Bard, which is just that's a 2,000 gold mistake. And if you look where the mid game frankly went to shit. It was after the double Rift Herald drop into Bard and they lost third Mountain Dragon, and then game extends for extra 10 minutes and scaling happens. Whereas if they had 2,000 gold on Vital, and Vital is a Phelios with 2 items at the fourth dragon fight, and they have all 4 dragons and Solar's been achieved, maybe completely different game. So I think Kai probably a little bit frustrated there because he drafted a full early game comp. They got the early game rolling, and then the easiest part of the game, just don't drop Herald in Bard lane, was flunked.
I also think too that there was I don't even know if you fully agree with every point Spawn made, but I also think it could be a little bit of nerves. I think that top lane chippies, wasn't laning the best. They weren't their normal selves, right? They had that early game comp and they weren't able to get the lead. Sure, they riffed the Rift Herald and they didn't really play around the Bard too well. But I think maybe this is just a game where you try and just reset their nerves. Yeah, we're in a grand final, but we've ran the gauntlet. Let's just play our game. It's worked for us before. We've come down from a deficit and just believe in each other. Because I think a lot of the time, in a series like this, you can't do too much coaching because it becomes overwhelming at times. And a lot of it is you're just playing that, you're playing dad. You're playing, it's okay, guys. We've got the next game in a sense, So there's little things that they can fix. Maybe ban the Bard. I don't know if they have access to a free ban, but I think that it was really checkmate draft.
All right, well, Direwolves obviously looking to bounce back from that. We have seen the bounce back before from them, obviously, against Order. They went on to take out Chiefs. They have that momentum on the side, but Legacy looking very determined to just stop that ball rolling tonight. They do not want to go to 5 games. They want to end it after 3, and they have taken out game number 1. There were winners also taking out our NeoSurf competition, but that doesn't mean we don't have more prizes to give away to you guys. Please head to @OPL on Twitter and just reply to the post announcing the next NeoSurf serve competition. Predict the pace, the total game time for game number 2. The person who gets it closest is going to win themselves a legendary skin and 20 masterwork chests and keys. Runners up will get themselves an epic skin and 10 masterwork chests and keys. That is what you can win. On the line is the title for the OPL Grand Final for Split 1. It's Legacy versus Direwolves. It's Game 2, and it's coming up after the Macca's Champ Select.